Anyone looking at civilization today will notice one fact. Western civilization is more advanced than others in science, culture, economics, and even art. The world's most impressive cities are in the West. New developments in science and technology originate mostly in the West. Some people from other parts of the world envy Westerners, not just for their culture and civilization, but also for their philosophy and faith. But were they aware of the historical facts, they would not be misled so easily. If we examine the history of the last 2,000 years, the picture looks altogether different. Islam drove the greatest cultural and scientific advancements in human history. At the time when the West was lost in darkness, Islam founded the most sophisticated civilization in the world. Islam brought light to an otherwise dark world. Let us watch together. 14 centuries ago, a new religion was born on the Arabian Peninsula. The religion taught the violent, barbaric, and ignorant Arab nation peace, reason, and civilization. Many other nations besides the Arabs were enlightened by this new religion. Culture, philosophy, and the arts developed tremendously. This religion was Islam, God's religion sent as a guide for humankind. In the 7th century, Arabia was one of the most troubled areas of the world. It was home to a diverse range of tribal communities, each worshipping different idols. They would fight one another for the favor of their idols, shed blood, and even kill their children. A perverse sense of morality ruled. Hate prevailed instead of love, and cruelty instead of compassion. But miraculously, in a matter of decades, this dark and bloody world was to change completely. This great miracle was the Quran that God sent to humanity as a guide. God revealed the Quran to the final prophet, Mohammed. May God bless him and grant him peace. God's first revelation came to the prophet when he was in a cave. Read in the name of your Lord who created man from a clinging substance. Read, and your Lord is the most generous. He who taught by the pen taught men what he did not know. With this commandment, the Arabs, caught in a vicious circle of utter ignorance and much violence, were for the first time invited to read and to think. This was also to be the beginning of the most remarkable cultural development in the history of humanity. The Prophet Mohammed began to preach Islam in Mecca, the largest city in Arabia. The inhabitants of Mecca were the guardians of the Kaaba, the mosque built by Ibrahim for the worship of God, which had degenerated to the point where it had turned into a temple of idolatry. The hundreds of idols adorning the Kaaba were the symbol of the perverted religion of the local people, as well as their source of income. They would make offerings to these idols, dance around them and chant, hoping to win their favor by these rituals. But in reality, they were just being hopelessly irrational, worshipping these carved pieces of stone and wood they had made themselves. God addressed them in the Quran. Mankind, an example has been made, so listen to it carefully. Those whom you call upon besides God are not even able to create a single fly, even if they were to join together to do it. And if a fly steals something from them, they cannot get it back. How feeble are both the seeker and the sought. Mecca's elite turned their backs on this truth and developed an anger and hostility to the Prophet who had brought them this truth. They conspired first to force him off his path, then to intimidate him, and finally even to murder him. Many Muslims believing in the Prophet became the victims of vicious nighttime raids on their homes, and most were martyred. Then, God showed the Muslim a way to safety. 13 years after the first revelation, at a time when the Muslims were subject to severe oppression, the leader of Yathrib, a town to the north of Mecca, invited the Muslims in. The Prophet obliged and migrated to this town. This town, later named Medina, was to become Islam's new capital. The Prophet signed an agreement with the Jews, Christians, and those Arabs who were not Muslims, establishing a just order by which all the different religious communities would live in peace with one another.